Okay. Um, what's next? Well, this still looks super ugly, and so does this. So I guess those are natural nexts. Alright, so let's think about this one at a time. Let's maybe fix this button. Um, First, we should take another look at our mockup, which is in Photoshop. So it needs to be this color, it needs to not have the rounded edges, it needs a different font. Okay, that's a lot of things. Let's go find it here. Here is the button. So, oh, and it needs to say something different too. Right now it just says button. So let's change it to say exit in lowercase because that's what our mockup said. And we need to find the right font. So I'm trying to remember how I figured out what font this was. Does it say in the mockup? That's a good first step to check it out. Let's see. So I really can't remember how I figured this out, but in real life, what you would do is ask the artist, hey, what font is that? That would be one thing. You could even have them give it to you. But I luckily did write down what I used for it. And so when I'm looking for fonts and I'm trying to be free, I go to fonts.google.com. And I happen to know this font was like in the Gaudi family. So I searched for Gaudi, I think, or something like the Gaudi. There we go. And you can change like what it says. Trying to remember how that works. Oops. So let's see if I expand this and I choose custom. I can type what it says. So it's like exit, right? And same here. Let's try exit. And let's make this bigger so I can see it easier. And we're going to figure out which one of these seems closer to our mockup. And boy, that looks ugly. Let's see if I can find a better representation of it. Maybe I don't have such a thing. Well, again, I don't remember how I figured this out, but my estimation is that this one is a better choice. So I need to download this guy. And all these things on Google Fonts are available for you to use royalty free. So let's see, I can click on this plus button, I think, and then there should be a way to download it. So I'm going to choose download this selection, and I've got this guy, and we're going to extract it because it's a zip. So let's extract all, and it's just going to make a new folder with that font in it. So regular and italic. I think we're just using regular. I'm going to go to my Unity project, and I don't have any fonts yet, so that's a new type of asset, so I need to make a new folder for that type of asset. We will call it fonts. Cool. Let's open that up. Let's drag the old font in there. And now if I click on my button and I choose font, oh, it's on the label actually. So beneath the button, a child of the button is something called text. It says exit. Here's where I can change the font to this new one. It is teeny tiny. It can't be seen. We need to figure out how big to make it. So this seems kind of small, but let's see what happens if, say, I run this on maximize on play. It's pretty legible, I'd say. So I don't know. I'm going to go with this because I think it matches the layout. I think. Let's go take another look. Oh, and it actually says exit menu. And maybe it looks a little bold too. So let's try making those changes. Let's make this thing bold. I think that's a choice somewhere. Font style, bold. That looks pretty ugly. Yikes. Maybe I shouldn't do that. And, well, I'll think about it. And we need to, what was I going to do also? Oh yeah, I was going to change it so it says exit menu, because that's what the mockup said. Let's look at this. If I play it. Yeah, I don't know if I like that bold. I might get rid of it. We'll see. I'll get rid of it for now. So yeah, let's just get rid of this bold for the time being. Oh, that's not what is making it bold. Alright. So let's go ahead and change the colors. So if we look at the mockup, this button color, it should be the same as these buttons here. So I already have them in Unity. So I think if I go to my exit menu button and I choose normal color and I choose the color picker, I can just pick that color. So I don't have to deal with Photoshop. I don't want this to be rounded, right? So I should delete this UI sprite thing. Remember, if I look carefully at this, you'll see it's got this rounded edge. If I delete the UI, so I'm on the exit menu button, I'm going to click UI sprite, I'm going to hit backspace. No more rounded edge, it's gone. I'm going to save it because I'm scared. Alright. Let's kind of see what it looks like. Boy, my text just does not look good. I think it's, I don't know what it's from. We'll fix it before it's all said and done. It looks okay when I click it. Oh, well, that's not right though, right? We don't probably want that to look so different than this. So we should probably use the same color schemes, right? So we can do that pretty easy. Let's go find our one that's set up correctly. Let's go to the scene view here so I can click stuff. So once I click this one, I can see here's the pressed color. I'm going to right click and choose copy. I'm going to go to this one. I'm going to find the pressed color. I'm going to right click and hit paste. I need to do the same thing for the highlight color. Copy, paste. So now these colors should all match the existing buttons. Let's test it out. Seems pretty matchy. Cool. Now there's this whole thing. This is the next ugliest thing. So let's work on that. Alright. So let's take a quick look at the mock-up. So we can see that this is black and there is white text, and then this button looks like that. So let's start by just changing the color of our scroll view. So let's go back to Unity and let's, again, we're not going to have the horizontal scroll bar, so we can kill that. We're in this right column, description, text, scroll view. I'm going to find the horizontal scroll bar here and just delete it. I'm going to change the background of this so that, so remember this image, this one we want, but it should be black. And we want it to be full opacity. So it's all the way black. And we can close that. Eventually, actually, we're going to have to do this on both sides, is come up with a better aesthetic for these scroll bars. They don't look great. We'll see if we can come up with something later. Now I think we need to add some text to this thing. So when you're trying to come up with a bunch of placeholder text, it's common to use something called Lorem Ipsum. which I think I have a link in the notes. Yeah, here we go. Come on, note. Aha, it was too far down. All right, anyway, Lorem Ipsum is Latin. You can see what it means here, but for in the world of design, we often use Lorem Ipsum for placeholder text. So we're just going to choose, sure, generate me 5 paragraphs of Lorem Ipsum. And I'm just going to select all this junk. And I'm going to go back to Unity. And I'm going to go into this content area here. So I'll expand the viewport. Now, I'm going to show you, I always have this problem. I always forget how it works every time. So I might as well cover it in this video. What I always try to do is create a UI text as a child of the content. And so then I could like paste all this in, tons of text. There we go. And we want it to be this Gaudi font, and we want it to be what font did we use for the button? What size? The font size was 28 here. If we look at our mock-up, are they roughly the same size? I'm not sure. Yeah, I think so. So we'll make this size 28 font on this text, and we will make it white so we can read it. Although I don't know if this is technically white. Let's again. I think that this, go to Photoshop here. I think this is the same color as this. Let's kind of take a closer look. Huh. Not quite sure what to think about that. I think it's probably this color. So let's copy that color. And oops, I got rid of it. Let's copy the hex code for that color and go back over to Unity, and let's go ahead and paste that in for the text color. Now we can't see our text at all. Not sure why. Let's figure that out. I think it's because it's taking up too much room to fit in this tiny little thing. So let's just make this big like so. Let's take a look at this in the game. Getting there a little bit better-ish. So I want to go over how I always struggle with getting these scroll views to work with text. So if you remember how we set it up, I need to disable horizontal scrolling still. So let's go do that very quickly. On the scroll view, we're basically going to walk through the same steps we used on the left column scroll view here. So we deleted the scroll bar. We need to uncheck horizontal scrolling. Got it. Now it does not go left and right anymore. Now, as you recall, in theory, when there gets to be more text than fits here, we wanted this content area to like stretch out and match the length of the text. So let's see how to maybe set that up. That was with this thing called a content size fitter. So we're going to go ahead and add the content size fitter. I'm going to add it right to this text component that's a child of our content, just because that makes sense to me. And I'm going to change the vertical fit. If you remember how we did it in the last time, we did it on preferred size. And guess what? It doesn't really work. And this always confuses me every time. So the trick, I think, with text, which works evidently slightly different than with these like toggles we've used, is to not make it a child of the content, but instead put the text component on the content itself. So what I'm going to do is copy my text component here, copy component, I'm going to click on the content itself, and I'm going to right click up here. Where do you do that? Right here, where the first, I'm going to right click on the title bar of the first component, which happens to be a rect transform, and I'm going to hit paste component as new. So I will paste a new text component that has all this set up just like my other one was. I'm going to go back and delete this extra text component that was a child of the content. And now I think if I add a content size fitter to this thing and choose preferred size for vertical fit, it will magically work. And boy, oh boy, oh well, guess what? I see something funny happening, something awesome over here. See this red right here? This means you're screwed. This is basically what happens when some element, in this case it's the scroll bar vertical, has kind of gone inside out. And I don't know why it went inside out. I didn't ever resize it. But it is screwed right now. I think that's which one it is. Let's see if I can. It won't even let me turn this off. So at this point, like, I'm not even sure what went wrong, so I'm gonna kind of start over. That's terrifying, isn't it? This is why you should save a lot. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna disable this thing, and I'm going to right click on my right column and make a new scroll view. So UI scroll view. I just disabled it because I want to remember how I sized everything. So what I can probably do here is copy the values of this one, the old one here. So I guess, although it seems kind of goofy. Anyway, 350 by 500, that's what we used for that, the old one. So let's make the new one the same thing. 350 by 500. You can see our button has moved above this. That's because of the order that they're listed here. So let's just collapse the left column so it's easier to see this. We're dealing with the right column. The image is above the scroll view in the list. If I move it below it, it will put it back down there. All right. We need to get the text component added there. So we'll copy this component again and find the content of this one inside of the viewport content, paste component as new. Again, you have to right click like right here. I guess maybe you can click this. Yeah, there you go. So there's our text. We have to get rid of that, or not get rid of, but change the background. So on my new scroll view, I'm going to change the background to black, and it needs to be fully opaque. All right, and so now we're basically back where we were before. Let's go ahead and destroy this one. I don't need it anymore. I need to save, so in case I go wrong, I don't start over again, because that sucked. So here we are with the scroll view, and here's my content. I need to add a content size fitter to this thing. There we go. And I need to set the vertical fit to preferred size. And now it's working. And there's no more red junk. So I think, lo and behold, there's my scroll bar. So, 2 takeaways from this exercise. Oh, I forgot to disable horizontal scrolling. Let's do that real quick. Scroll view, uncheck horizontal, and let's delete the horizontal scroll bar because I just don't want that ever. I will delete it. I'm going to save it before I delete, just in case this happens to throw it into a state of chaos, which it kind of did, actually. Wow. All right. So that's what went wrong there. and it is still broken, I think. Yep. Interesting. Well, we figured out what broke it. It was deleting the horizontal scroll bar. So maybe if I go back and plug this in, let's see. Where the heck? Now I'm just getting confused. Scroll bar horizontal, right there. Hey, that fixes it. All right. So don't delete the scroll bar horizontal, evidently, even though it worked on our other one, or it will just totally screw up your stuff. I can probably uncheck it here. Oh, no, don't do that either. It won't let me. Whatever, I can live with it. It automatically hides. No problem. All right, so the two takeaways are, one, definitely save a lot. If you see the little red thing like I saw there, sometimes it'll look like a red X. That's when you know your UI has gone wrong. In this case, it was because I deleted the horizontal scroll bar, and I guess something about my setup just absolutely required that being there. Anyway, the other takeaway that I always mess up is that when you want the scroll bar to work with text, the scroll view, you need to make your text a component of the content itself. Don't make a child. Don't make a child object of the content. Make the content itself have the text. And finally, you need to always have your content size fitter with preferred size set here. So that'll get that to work. I'm going to run it again just to really feel confident that it's working. And it is. That's good. We still have a lot of work to do to make this not look so ugly. Let's see. I think we should probably not have the font like absolutely edged up against the scroll view like that. So I think we can add some cushioning here if we select this content that has the text on it and adjust the left and right options here. So left, just gonna click and drag, and you can see like what it's doing. So I think I'm just gonna give it something like 8. It's gonna be enough. On the right, I'm gonna give it also 8. I think that it was not the right. That was Y. I don't know why I did that. So let's hit Control Z on that guy. Let's go back to right and choose 8. There we go. Okay, let's save. Let's see what's the next biggest. Oh, cute. It just it's totally changed my stuff. So why did that happen? Let's try again. 8. It does not like that. All right. I apologize for the delays, but I suppose this is a decent teaching moment. So I was really frustrated yesterday when I was trying to figure out what was going on with this bug, and I just needed to take some time away from it. And so I woke up this morning with renewed resolve and was able to figure out what's going wrong. So first of all, I've been kind of ignoring this blurry text. And quick Google searches were difficult because there's an issue with 4K monitors or high resolution displays where the editor text itself, like this text and this text, would be blurry prior to like 2018.2, I think. So you would see a lot of search results about that and not about this problem. But I was able to figure out what the issue is. So you notice I've mentioned before to make sure we're in 16:9 as we test this, and that will work fine. And you may have noticed when I put maximize on play on and run the game, the text looks a little bit better. Like this is legible and this is legible. That's still kind of bad, but it all looks way better than this. This is awful. Or if I look at it in the scene view, it looks pretty bad too. It's just blurry. So I've figured out that I can fix it by adding, so on my game window here, I'm going to add a specific resolution here. So rather than just using an aspect ratio, I'm going to add a fixed resolution. I'm going to call it HD, or you could call it 1080, or whatever you wanted. So 1920 is our width, right? Remember we set our canvas scalar's reference resolution. So we're going to make a resolution for our game window that matches our reference resolution. So 1920 by 1080. That's the standard HD or 1080p. You might be familiar with those terms. And now look at that. Everything is far more clear, just like that. And so when I run the game, maybe this view looks similar, but in the editor window, like here, all of a sudden this text is like a million times better. So that just helps my that just helps my sanity. I don't know. It's probably not actually changing a lot, but it makes it easier to work with, in my opinion. Okay, the other thing you might want to take note of is this scale thing. Right now, this monitor I'm recording on is 1920 by 1080. So that's just how many pixels there are on this whole monitor. Because the Unity interface itself, like the Unity editor here, is taking up part of my screen, there's no way this menu or this window here can take up the full 1920 by 1080 unless I totally maximize it and there was no Unity window showing at all. It was just my game full screen. I don't even think that's really a choice. Like even with maximize on play, there is this junk up here and this junk down here and so on. So as a result, you see the scale slider. We are only able to show essentially 0.84, so 84% of what you would actually see if you were running full screen. 84% of our 1920 by 1080. So sometimes you can get blurry text when this thing is cranked up above 1. You can see here, if I put it like at 5, it looks pixelated or blurry. So if you still notice blurry text after you've made this HD setting, double check that your scale is at 1 or below. Anything at 1 or below should be fine. It's when you start to go above 1 that we will start to see the normal sort of blurriness is sort of associated with zooming in on stuff. Alright, so just again, if you look at our canvas here, the canvas scalars, it's set to scale with screen size and it has a reference resolution of 1920 by 1080. That is where I got this number, and I got that number originally for this because that's the standard pixel dimensions of HD TVs. Okay, so moving on to the even more perplexing and frustrating issue I was running into, wherein in this right column scroll view here, this guy, we got it working, right? It's scrolling, but my problem was I wanted to change it so that there was some space in between the beginning of where our text starts and this left edge here. And so what I tried to do is go click on the content, change the left here to something reasonable, like 8 and 8. Sure, that looks great. And then I'd hit save, and it would just change right back. So you see how it changed to 16 there? I'll do it again. 8, 8, and then if I hit file, save, watch the values. Back to 0. It's now this is at 16. I don't know why. Okay, so this was really frustrating me, and I messed around with it, and it got even more out of whack, and I finally figured out what the problem was. So we have a few steps here. So first of all, we need to go back to our right column here, and we need to take a look at the vertical layout group. Now, this is what's causing our scroll view and our button to sort of stack on top of each other, like in this little icon here. The problem is these checkboxes. I'll be honest, I don't know literally what these do. You should look it up if you want to know precisely exactly what they are doing. But I can tell you that they are part of the culprit of why I am unable to adjust this value and have it stay that way. They also are part of the problem with why when I was deleting the horizontal scroll bar here, that it was like, remember we're getting that red line and that meant that our UI was broken. This has to do with that as well. So I'm not telling you to always uncheck this. I'm telling you in this case, this is what's causing me problems because I don't understand what it's for and I was using it wrong. So anyway, uncheck width and height here. You will notice that it moved our button. So this spacing that we put to -200, I'm now going to put at 0. 0 makes a lot more sense there. So I think that's another clue why this was that we were on the wrong track when we were having to type in -200 for that spacing. I want 0 spacing between these, and so 0 makes sense for that number. All right, so once you've unchecked these, you've changed the spacing as 0, we need to go back to our scroll view, right? And let's think about, you may have had a situation, like for me, because I was messing with this so much, if I click on the content here, I was messing with it so much to get it to work, it was totally messed up. Like, my content size fitter has made this grow to fit all of my Lorem Ipsum text, and that's good. But I had a situation where somehow mine had kind of gotten like this, and that's broken. So just to show you how to fix that, I'm going to reset the layout of this. So I'm going to choose the content here, and then select the anchor widget thing here, hold Alt, I'm going to choose this one, which is going to line it up with the top of its parent element, which would be the scroll view, so the top would be right here, and it's going to set it to scale to match the width of the parent, which would be the full left and right of the scroll view. And then I'm going to hold Alt so that it also moves its position to match that too. So I hold Alt and I click right here, and that'll fix if yours got out of whack inside of there. That'll line it back up. Now, the other problem was I was trying to get this to say 8 and 8. So I can type 8 here, and I can type 8 there, and let's see if I can hit save now, if it works. File, save, and it's still changed. All right. I have another step in our fix here, and this is even weirder. So do you remember when we were deleting the horizontal scroll bar, it was causing problems? Like it would give us the red line and that broke everything. Well, now that we have gotten rid of force child expand, I believe this is going to allow me to delete this horizontal scroll bar without totally breaking everything. And you can see I deleted it, and there's no more red line. It's actually working. And even more kind of bizarrely, in my opinion, but that's just because I don't understand how this works, and frankly, I don't find this intuitive. I'm sure you don't either. Now, I think I can go in and change this to say 8, and change this one to say 8 like I want it. And I'm going to save, and I think it might miraculously stay that way. And lo and behold, it stayed at 8 and 8 once I deleted that horizontal scroll bar. I have no clue why, but it worked. And it works predictably. I've reproduced this a lot of times, and each time it works. So even when I run the game, now you can see the left edge of my text is not butted up against the left edge of my scroll view here. It's actually kind of indented a little. So that was a very long and drawn out fix, but it did work, and it just took some patience and problem solving, which is a good skill to practice. So sorry if yours just worked the first time and you didn't need to work through this extra 20 minutes of me, coming up with a strange workaround to this Unity issue. I apologize, but if you were having the problem, now you know how to fix it. Okay, so now it's been so long. I spent so long working on this frustrating bug, I've forgotten even what makes sense to do next. But if I look at the big picture here, clearly this is our outlier in terms of looking ugly. And then maybe the scroll bars, so we'll look at them too. So for this button here, it's not a button, it's just sort of like meant to represent what item, like the name of the item that we have selected. We want it to look like this. So I think I still have my Photoshop open. You can grab the color picker and pick this color. I think it's the same as this color, and it's also the same as the text right there ish. But the text is kind of weird because it's dithered or whatever. So anyway, it's this color or this color. They're both the same. So I'm going to copy that color, the hex code here. Okay. And I'm going to go back to Unity and I'm going to click on this button, which is, I keep calling it a button because it looks so much like a button. It's an image. So I'm going to click on that image. Maybe I better rename it so that I stop getting confused. Let's call it selected item label or something like that. Alright, so I renamed it. And it has, if we expand it, it has a text component. And alright, so first let's change this image's color. So I'm going to choose the color and paste in my hex code that I had from Photoshop. Alright, now let's go to the text. We need to use our font, which is this Gaudi regular, and we need to change the font size. So remember, if I start making it too big to fit in this box, it won't show up. So I need to change the box. See how it disappeared there? So let's actually make this thing take up as much room as its parent, which would be the image, right? So if I hold Alt and choose this, it like resizes it in the middle there. But I want the text to be centered. Oops, I didn't mean to choose that. Choose center and middle. And then let's just start increasing its size until it looks about right. I'm going to choose 48 because that's like a kind of a more normal font size. It's a good idea to keep track of the like sizes you're using and use consistent sizes. So like, for example, all of my headings should be the same size. Kind of like with fonts and colors, we don't want to use too many sizes either. So keep track of what you're using and be consistent with them. Alright, so also the color is a little different. Let's take a look at Photoshop again. So there's this color, which I'm going to guess is this color. Let's just kind of check. So there's that color. It's just, this text is kind of goofy. Let me zoom in. Like, you can see how it's like different colors because of the way it's like shaded. So I'm going to try clicking that one in the middle that's its brightest and then compare that to this. It's super similar. So I'm guessing this is all the same. And I want to use consistent colors. So I'm going to, oops, I didn't mean to hit cut. I want to use that background color here. So I will copy that hex code. Like I said, I'm convinced that's what the artist intended. It's just since I'm zooming in so much on this text, it's giving me all kinds of different weird choices. Alright, so back in Unity, let's change the color of that font to this. And now I'd say it's starting to look a little better. There's our game view. Let's see what it looks like compared to this one. It's looking good, I think. Now we need to do something about these scroll bars. I think that's a good next step here. Now the mock-up does not have anything about the scroll bars, so we're kind of on our own. This is something I'm adding. I want them to be not gray because we're not using gray in the rest of our stuff here, right? So let's use colors that we're actually using. First of all, we'll look at the scroll bar itself. So scroll bar vertical here, and let's kind of see what it's made up of. I'm going to expand it, and you'll see there is a sliding area. All right, if I expand that, there's a handle. So we got the sliding area, which is just a transform. The scroll bar itself has an image. If I uncheck that image, so you can see that is this sort of background here. And then there's this handle, and if I uncheck that image, we can kind of see what it is. That's the part you actually click on. That's white, or more white than this gray background. So I'm going to use colors from our UI that we're already using. So I want the background to be kind of a more muted color. So how about this color right here? Remember, if we run this, there's a few colors we're using for these buttons, or the toggles, right? There's this color that they are before I mouse over them. So that's the more muted color. And then when I mouse over them, there's this more highlighted color. So I think we can use the more muted color for the background, and then the more highlighted color for the handle thing. So let's go ahead and set it up to look more like these. So let's find the scroll bar vertical. I'm going to change its color to match this. So I just used the Unity has its own color picker thing, eyedrop dealy. I clicked that, and then I clicked that, and then there we go. Now, how about the, well, actually, take a look at this. We've been using, well, this is harder to say. We've been using hard edges everywhere else in our UI. So I think we should fix these corners there, and I noticed this one now too. So while I've got the scroll bar selected, remember the reason we have that rounded corner is because it's using this 9-sliced background sprite. So I don't want to use that. If I just use no sprite for that, so I'm going to click there where it said background and hit backspace. Now you can see it's a hard edge. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for the scroll view. You can see the scroll view has an image as well. I can see what it is by unchecking it and rechecking it. Here's that background sprite again. I'm just going to select there and then hit backspace. Now we have another hard edge. And now we don't actually have that gap in between the scroll view and the selected item label. So that's good too. But I have this other interesting issue where my scroll bar here does not match the full length of my scroll view. And it's because there used to be a horizontal scroll bar here, but I got rid of it. So I'm going to select the scroll bar vertical, and I think maybe just drag it down until it hits the edge. And I think that will work. Let's run it and just double check that didn't break anything. Looks good to me. So now the last piece of the puzzle is this handle. And we got to figure out what color we want it to be. So let's take a look at it. Here's the handle right there. And you can see it's using the UI sprite. Well, we don't want to use that. That's, again, you know, it's going to have the rounded edges and the black outline. I don't want those things, so I'm going to select this UI sprite in the handle on the image component of the handle game object, hit backspace. Now it's just a hard-edged rectangle. The next question is, what color do we want it to be? So again, I think we should go back to our menu for inspiration. We're using the muted unselected color for the background, and then we have this other color that shows up when we highlight a thing. We're also using it there. Why don't we use this highlighted color for the handle? So I'm going to try that. So click on the handle, and I'm going to change its color. So I'm going to use this color picker. I'm going to get what I want to copy on my screen. So I'm going to copy that color. So I'm going to click the little color picker. I'm going to mouse over the color I want to select and then left click. And now we've got that color there. Let's just kind of see what it all looks like when I run it. It seems to match a little better in my book. You know, when you make your own menu, feel free to use whatever sort of color palette you like. But again, make sure it's an intentional designed concept, and you're not just sort of randomly using all kinds of colors. All right, so last but not least, we want to use the same changes that we used for this scroll bar onto this scroll bar. And remember, when we run the game, it's not showing up because there's not enough toggles here to require it to show up. But if I were to add more, like where is the toggles? I'll just click one. Here we go. So if I were to select one of these toggles and hit Control D until there were enough that I would need to scroll and run the game, we'll be able to see that scroll view. There it is. And so I need to change that as well. So let's do that. I'm just going to make it match the other one I just did. So find the vertical scroll bar. We want to get rid of the background image. We want to make the color match our other one. We got to find the handle. We want to make its color match our other handle. So color picker, other handle. And you can see again, this one is also not quite big enough. So let's go back to that scroll bar vertical, drag it down until it lines up with the bottom of the scroll view. Oh, and I can see on my handle here, I also need to delete the UI sprite source image to get rid of the rounded corners. So just hit backspace, and now they look uniform. I'm going to save this, and it will be a good time to make a commit. All right, and I think that pretty much takes care of our basic menu layout. We've got our scroll view on the left, where we can select these fake inventory objects, and we've got a scroll view on the right, and a label for whatever we have selected, and a button to exit the menu. So I think we are in good shape. The next step will be to start adding functionality so that when the player brings up the menu, it will display icons based on what the player has actually collected. Cool. All right, see you next time.